Hey guys, this is Red and Blue, and today, incredible result in the Champions League coming out of San Siro, where Inter Milan got beat by the Norwegian of Bodø Glimt. I hope I'm pronouncing this close to right. I'm sure I'm not right, but close to right will be good enough. The Inter Milan team got knocked out of the Champions League in the playoff round. They had lost 3-1 in Norway in the away game, and last night in Milan, they didn't manage to turn this around. In fact, they lost at home 2-1 against the Norwegian team. Incredible result and a lot of things to talk about. So let's just dive into it. Bodø Glimt. I've been told. I've done my research. I've been told this is how you're supposed to say it. Getting the win, and honestly, like. So obviously, like the game was dominated by Inter Milan in terms of possession, in terms of number of shots, even number of shots on target. But it's really hard to argue that this win wasn't really like well deserved for Bodø Glimt. I think, having watched the game, I think this Milan team did relatively well in terms of taking control of the game, but they did horrible at coming in with a winning game plan first, and second, like when not seeing that their game plan wasn't going to fly, adapting it and changing and proposing something different. And I think, for a team at that level, which only months ago was against us in the final of the Champions League, a team that had 2 finals of the Champions League in the last 3 years, and that's sitting top of the table in the Serie A, it's a massively disappointing result, and I think it's a massively disappointing performance as well, because honestly, what I saw from this team is, athleticism, yes, to some extent. Yes, they've got some strong guy. Yes, they can go shoulder to shoulder, even against like Arctic Circle Norwegians, so like big Viking type dudes. But at the end of the days, they didn't really blow them away. They didn't really manage to really run past. When you think of Inter last season with like the fullbacks who are just running in circles against whatever opposition you would put against them, you'd have like Thuram front that was really like dominating anyone, even the strongest of defenders. Their midfield was super strong as well and really impactful. It was like kind of a light version of this, and I think ultimately, like, going into this game, I think, yes, the tactical approach was wrong. So what we saw from this Inter team is really like trying to create differences on the side, and as soon as they had an opportunity, cross into the box and hope for Inter header there. And yes, I guess this can work with a player like Thuram there, who, like I said, can dominate if you project a lot of people in the area. But in this case, like, it was kind of like easily foreseen, and yes, you're dealing with a team of like, I don't want to fall into the cliche, but like really like big meaty Norwegian dude. So it's really, if there's any teams against whom this sort of thing is not gonna fly, that's really gonna be this one. And they kept doing that literally for the whole game. There was plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D for Inter. I think that's really shocking, honestly, because it's an Inter team that should have enough talent, even without Lautaro Martinez, who wasn't on the pitch. It's an Inter team who should have way enough talent to be able to offer something different, who should be able to combine in small spaces, and who should be able to honestly like put a lot more madness into this game in a way. I think like the first half, even if Inter has some big chances and so on, you don't really feel the urgency of a team with two goals down at the beginning of the game, with a knife under their throat, and who needs to like go score goals or die. And like, they do create chances, but there's no forward runs. Like, they play 3 at the back. Why aren't there, like, some of their, one at least of their central defenders just making runs at the opposite defense when Inter has extended periods of possession, just to create mayhem and to create chaos? Their midfielders like Barella tries to do that, and Zielinski as well. But honestly, like, it's not enough. And like, this team of Bodø Glimt, they're not there by surprise. Yes, they're not a big club and they're not a big budget and so on. But in the group phase, they've beaten Man City at their place. They've beaten Atlético Madrid in Madrid. They've beaten this Inter team in the first round of the playoff in Norway. So if you expect them to be an easy prey at this point, I'm sorry, but you deserve to get kicked out. And like I talked about this in my preview of the Monaco game for PSG yesterday. You cannot afford in this competition to be complacent for even a second. And that's really what I saw from this Inter team. They're saying that, athletically they couldn't do more and so on. But honestly, it felt like up until the beginning of the second half, it didn't feel like a team who was really like willing to lay their life on the pitch to go through. And ultimately, like, yeah, you do need to put everything in and leave everything on the pitch if you want to go through in this competition. They did do better, I think, at the beginning of the second half. They've got the first like 10 minutes block in the second half, where you see they're really honestly trying to create some mayhem. They're getting a few chances, but not having much luck at converting. And then like Bodø Glimt manages to score 2 goals pretty much back-to-back. 2 really well-managed opportunities. The first one is Akanji making a meal out of playing the ball out of defense. In the end, he tries to play it somewhat back to his keeper, but like maybe there was like an invisible interplayer between him and his keeper, and that's who he was trying to pass to. But the Bodø Glimt attacker, and kudos to them, because now like people are saying like, oh, like, like Inter dominated and they created so many chances and so on. But Bodø Glimt, they defended with a lot of cohesion, with a lot of manpower to be sure, but they also didn't hesitate to go after their own chances. And so when Akanji makes a mistake at the back, there's literally like 3 Bodø Glimt attackers who are ready to pounce on it, and it ends up being a 2v1 against the keeper, which is just simply crazy. So they didn't need to run the 80 meters length of the field because even their attackers were in their area. They were right there, ready to take advantage of the mistake and ready to put pressure on the defender. And so they do manage to score the first goal. Sommer manages to get a save, but it falls back into a Bodø Glimt player who puts his past the keeper and pretty much scores in the empty goal. 1-0 up, you see at this point like Inter is just starting to fold, and then the second one is just a masterpiece of a counter. Beautiful transitions. They get the ball on the right. There's once again like 2-3 attackers making a run at Inter's area, trying to find open spaces in between the Inter defenders. And Åge, I think it's Åge who scores the second one, who used to be an AC Milan player back in the day, actually gets the ball, superb first touch, and then puts it past Sommer in the corner, lower left corner of the goal, 2-0. Inter gets a goal back on a corner, but like really doesn't matter at this point. Like they're 5-1 up and 5-2 up with 10-15 minutes to go. Like the game is beyond shadow of a doubt. So yeah, very impressive win, and I think like I was gonna say like I think most people are saying as well like, oh, it's Inter's fault and it was Inter's game to lose, and I think on paper. Before the first game, yes, definitely. But I think having watched the game yesterday, like that would have been a mistake. And I think, yes, Bodø Glimt played a defensive game, but they came in with a very, very well thought tactical plan, very well executed. They never really panicked in defense. Sure, their goalkeeper had a couple of like really impressive saves, but you need that at that level. And they managed to make it through. And I think in the end, yes, it was Inter games to lose, and they did manage to lose it. But it's also Bodø Glimt who came in with a really good plan, executed, and so on. And I think, going back to the background of this team, and you can tune me out if you know about them, but it's a club that's, Glimt is obviously like Bodø is sitting on the edge or within the Arctic region, so really the northern end of Norway, and so they've cultivated kind of a very unique club spirit, and even connection with their community around them. The coach has been in place for 10 years, along with his assistant coaches as well. Nearly, I think, like 9 out of 11 of the players that started the game and the 4 substitutes are all Norwegian players. Most of them have been at the club for a while, and they've been like progressively progressing. So they came into the first division. They started getting the Champions of Norway crown. Now they've had 4 titles in Norway. They played in the Conference League, I think 2021, where they had like a very memorable win against Jose Mourinho's Roma back then, whom they beat 6-1 in Norway. Last year, they made it to the semi-final of the Europa League, and now this year they're in the Champions League. They're not making a huge amount of noise. They started their Champions League run this season with 4 defeats early on. And they kind of changed their approach at that point. They went from playing kick and rush to playing like, a more balanced like defensive football, with very, very strong and fast transitions and counter-attack. They call it their way, and their way of playing. And even the way the club is managed, they've got a 30 million euro budget, which is tiny even by Ligue 1 standard. They deal only with sponsors that are responsible, companies, pro-environment. When they played against Maccabi Haifa, they gave the whole sum that they got from selling tickets to a pro-Palestine charity. So they try to be really like, a good club and good corporate soldier in the way they act. And I think it reflects all the way on down, from like the leadership of the club and the direction that they take to like their operations on a day-to-day basis, and all the way down to their spirit on the pitch. And I think, yesterday was a great example of that. A very like unique team that played with a lot of solidarity. They played together. There's no big stars. There's no big name. It's a team, a unit that plays together, and ultimately that gets the win. That gets the win in lots of cases, and against a lot of teams, even the bigger ones. So very important and very impressive wins for them. In the next round, they're going to be facing either Sporting Portugal or Man City, who, like I said, they faced in the group stage and managed to beat in Norway. And obviously, Man City also plays the Norwegian player in Erling Haaland as well, so it'd be an interesting matchup. I think in both cases, it's going to be an interesting game, and they've got nothing to lose at this point. They already have their big successes. So yeah, more to see and more to watch on this Bodø Glimt team. And I think, from a PSG standpoint, just to close off, there's 2 things that come to mind when I see this. First, I said it, I'll say it again and again, no complacency against Monaco. Even if we're the strongest team on paper, even if we have a lead, anything can happen, and you cannot afford for even a second to take it easy in this competition. So let's keep this lesson in mind. And then, for us who have been beaten Inter in the final of the Champions League last season, it really shows that how hard it is to stay at the top level in European football and to produce time and time again and to stay at the top level. And so, I think we'll see how far we can go this season. We'll see what we can achieve. We've got this dream of going back to back, but this is really telling of how quickly things can go wrong, and how hard it is to stay at the top. I don't think Inter's defeats takes anything away from our run last season. I think it's a different Inter team with a different coach, different circumstances as well. And I think in the end, it really shows that there's very little margin at the top level and that you need to take every instant very, very seriously to perform. So anyway, this is what I had for you guys on the incredible Bodø Glimt win in San Siro against Inter, knocking Inter Milan out of the Champions League in the playoff round. We're hours away from PSG's game at home against Monaco, so stay tuned for that. We'll do the debrief tomorrow for sure. Go back and check out my preview if you haven't seen it yet. And as always, if you made it this far, please drop a like for this video. Please subscribe to the channel for PSG news, but also like the top news on big footballing event like this crazy win. And as always, even in the Arctic, even in Milan, ici c'est pareil!